So from GenderMag to SocioeconomicMag. So you all are, of course, familiar with GenderMag, but a few of you aren't. Oh, I know, I have to do this. But a few of you aren't. So I'll just remind you very briefly of what GenderMag was and show you the relationship to SocioeconomicMag. So as many of you know, GenderMag is a process that software practitioners use. The point of this of the previous project was to teach your students, the future software practitioners, to use GenderMag throughout all the technology they build to make it better. It's used in industry. I was just telling Amani, it's used in, I think I told her 57 countries, but I think it's actually above that. I think we're in the 60s now. All over the world, you can see little blue spots in some version of where it is. And so what those software practitioners are doing are finding these biases or inclusivity bugs in the user experiences that they're pushing off on their users by the technology they build. And in GenderMag, those biases or inclusivity bugs disproportionately, of course, affected some genders, and particularly often it was women. This is an example from a commercial product that used GenderMag. It's actually a Microsoft product, and they let us say that in a paper, which was very nice. This was a commercial product that had been out there for a while. In this graph, down is good. And in the original version of their product, women failed the main tasks more than twice as often as men, okay, in their original product that had been out there a while. But they used GenderMag before they knew that. They just knew it needed some help. They used GenderMag and came up with a different version of the product. In the original, as I said, women failed the task more than twice as often as men. In the new version, everybody got better and the gender gap disappeared. So as you can see, this is all about inclusivity bugs, not about some group of people being less able than another. Okay, so that's what GenderMag is, and it was first published in 2016 and got real well established before we brought it here. And so you may be saying, well, how does gender even relate to software? And the answer is software has these gender biased bugs. And here's a worried software developer saying, I'm awfully busy. Like, do I have to deal with these? And where are these anyway? And the answer is these are in all the software that person's creating and in even the tools that they have to use to do it. And he says, how can this be? And the answer is, well, there are these gender differences, statistical gender differences in the ways people go about problem solving, as Steve explained in one of his things, and we've talked about this. And the worried software developer says, how much does this really matter? And the answer is a whole lot. It just saps people's cognitive strength every time they run into one of these things. So, okay. Now we switch to SocioeconomicMag, and the same darn thing is true. Absolutely the same slide, except we have less proof. But it's not strictly hypotheses either, because we derived all of these facets from a huge path through the literature on socioeconomic differences, again, statistical from psychology and sociology and education and all over the place. So we've started doing that literature search. Gosh, it's been going on for like 5 or 6 years. So there is a lot of stuff out there. But SocioeconomicMag is completely unproven itself. No papers at all. One grant, which is this one. So you all are all on the cutting edge. But it's a pretty safe cutting edge because we already know from GenderMag that this sort of thing works really well. All right, and for those of you whose students are not motivated by social justice, there's always the curb cuts argument. It makes, if you do stuff like this, it just makes better software. Whatever they turn out is going to be higher quality. And the classic example of such things is curb cuts. Those cut out places in the sidewalks. I was telling Imani, by the way, this is all being Zoom recorded, and what that means to you is you can reuse any piece of this in your classes if you want to. Like if you want to use this piece of the talk, go ahead. Anyway, but maybe cut this part out. Okay. Curb cuts. Cut out places in the sidewalks. So way back in the old days, there were no curb cuts. And somebody noticed somebody in a wheelchair saying, gosh, this is hard. And curb cuts were born. And they did help people in wheelchairs. And people with those walkers with wheels on them too. And people pushing babies in strollers. And people on bicycles. And people pushing heavy bales of hay on their dollies. So curb cuts made sidewalks better, okay? And the way we got there is we studied one population who had run into some inclusivity bugs and said, let's take down those barriers, and look what happened. Way better sidewalks, way better technology. All right, so just like with GenderMag, the scope of SocioeconomicMag is when the user is problem solving. They've got their thinking cap on, not when they're just click, 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 okay? But when they're thinking, like when they're learning something or debugging something or budgeting or planning transportation or filling out government forms or whatever. Okay. Let's just say, but do we need a socioeconomic mag? Really? Surely our technology is not socioeconomic biased. Well, let's just look at AI. User-facing AI systems like recommenders. So a human tendency is to design for ourselves. We all kind of do what we think is going to make sense to people, which translates into what makes sense to me. So let's look at who these me people are who design AI, including user-facing AI. Here is what US AI producers are like from Bureau of Census and all this kind of stuff. The orange is the, shall we say, underrepresented group. So what you can see here is in terms of sex, AI producers are, I don't know, maybe 12%, not men. College degree, they all have college degrees. You can't develop AI without a college degree. Race, almost all of them are white or Asian. These people are the ones who are not white or Asian. Socioeconomic, they're all above the median socioeconomic wise. It pays good money to develop AI. Okay, that's what the developers are like. Here is what US AI consumers are like. Mismatch. Okay, if these people are designing for themselves, which they probably are because it's a natural human tendency, all of this orange is getting left out. Okay, that's why we need a socioeconomic mag. Okay, how it works, we already saw this. We saw the flow chart. You pick a persona, you pick a technology. Oh, this is just too much fun to skip. We're going to do this one. We're going to pick a technology and a scenario. This one is so good. So here is a technology. I just found this on the web. It's the bias reporting page from some university nearby, but not this one. And the scenario is Dave is a student or a staffer at that university and has witnessed a faculty member's bias act and is supposed to, this is their goal, to use that bias reporting page to report it. You all have seen this, right? Your university has one of these. Is this concept unfamiliar to anybody? You have seen bias reporting pages? No, you have not.
On a student conduct.
Okay. Well, so a lot of universities, including this nameless one, have these with the idea that anyone is supposed to be able to fill one of these out to support an act of bias, and then appropriate university administrators will do stuff to make that sort of thing go away. So this is, a lot of universities have these. All right, so let's walk through a scenario. Dave, a staffer or a student, has gone to this page to report a faculty member's bias act. I don't know what they did. Maybe they used racially offensive language. Maybe they talked down to some woman in the class, don't you worry your pretty little head about this. You know, who knows what they did? But they did something. All right, so we turn to the developers and say, in this horrible looking thing, what do you want Dave to be thinking? I think I blew it up. Yeah, now you can sort of see it. This is what's on the page. We ask the developers, what do you want Dave to be thinking when Dave sees this page? And the developers say, enter the data. That's what we want Dave to be thinking. We all get together as evaluators and say, is Dave going to have that sub-goal? If Dave sees this page, yes, no, maybe, and why? And we think about Dave's facets and we think, gosh, Dave's feeling kind of nervous. It looks like maybe you have to put in your name. We think about Dave's attitude toward risk. If Dave is a student, does he want his name on this thing when he's reporting a faculty member's bias act? I mean, this sounds pretty risky. Anyway, we write this all down. By the way, we could be tempted to write an anonymous here, right? Look at that. They want your OSU ID or your whatever, your student ID and your email. Yeah. Okay. We write it all down. Then we make Dave have that sub goal. And then we put it into Dave's head so that we can move ahead. And now we're at what we want Dave to do with his fingers. And it's enter name. Will Dave do it? Yes, no, maybe, and why? We think about risk. We think about privacy and security. We think about attitudes toward authority. Okay, what do y'all think? Will he do it?
If he wants you to, to do it, he's supposed to do it. It's like to police, you come, you say your name, you have your driver license, not like you anonymously say someone did something, I don't know. But you say if you want to take an action, you take an action, you fill it out.
Okay, so we've got a yes. We've got a yes. Do we have any other opinions? No, everybody agrees. Dave will do this. True? Okay, we have another yes.
Maybe.
Okay, it's a maybe, Mira. Why? What are you thinking?
Well, I think it depends on the severity of the incident.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about the rest of you? Thinking about attitude toward authority, control over things that happen in their lives, attitude toward privacy. Remember, this is Dave, not you.
I would say yes.
You would say yes, Dave will do it because the form tells him to. And he has to do it. Okay. Okay. Everybody knows I want somebody to say no. Will somebody please say no? Okay. Yeah, I know. Diana wanted a genuine no. Let's hear it.
Because I don't know if you fill out the report in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my Dave is like your Dave, Jillian. My Dave is thinking about the repercussions. If my name gets out, I'm worried about privacy and security. Okay, remember I'm way over there on the left there. I'm also worried about the power structure. If I'm a student, that faculty member, they could fail me. You know, they could talk bad about me. They could give me a bad reference. My Dave is absolutely not going to put in his correct name. He might try to get away with anonymous, but it's going to turn out that just won't pan out. Yeah.
That's my point. I don't think you would even know how to report it.
I think a lot of times victims of harassment don't want to actually come forward because of that risk of retaliation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the Daves in this room are saying, I'm not going to do this. Okay. All right. So that is the way that an inclusivity bias can get in here. On the other hand, somebody who feels really empowered and has, let's say, witnessed a faculty member putting up, say, a nudie picture or something in the computer science labs, they might actually feel comfortable talking about that and feel like they're coming in here on a white, on their white horse and doing a good deed by reporting that and making sure it comes down. And so somebody who feels that way might do it, but not somebody, I think, who is very worried about what an authority figure might do to them. Okay, all right, that's how it works. Now we're going to talk about Dave's persona, and actually Dave is a multi-persona, which kind of comes back to Jillian's question about all these personas that we might need. One of the good things about Dave also is that Dave is a multi-persona. That means that Dave is customizable. Helpers, can you pass out the Daves? This is that Dave. One per customer for now. Let's take a look at Dave. And divide these up, one per customer. What? Well, they're supposed to talk to each other. They get their own responses. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see here. So on the top of this form, please don't do it right now, but on the top of this form, you get to customize Dave's backstory. So Dave is defined by these 6 facets only. Okay, so this is the long form of the left side of that thing you filled out just a little while ago. This sort of thing. Now these facets are explained in a bit more detail, and I will go through a few of them with you, but the top part is blank. That's where you put in things that set Dave up to be in a position to do whatever the scenario coming up is. So for the bias reporting example we just went through, we said Dave is a student at so-and-so college and has just witnessed, a faculty putting up a nudie poster or something in the computer science lab. So that's what we would have done for the background. We put in stuff that gives them a reason to be there and the right level of education to be there and the right job title and that sort of thing. The way they think is defined by this. If you don't want this way of thinking and whatever you're evaluating, pick a different persona like Ash or Pete. But if we pick Dave, that's the definition of Dave. So this is what makes Dave a multi-persona, because Dave can be a janitor or a computer science professor or a truck driver or a homeless person or a student or a staff person or a department chair or anything. Okay. All right, let's look at the first facet. How much time have I used or do I have left, Jillian?
About 4 minutes left in this.
All right, I'm going to skip access to reliable technology because it's kind of obvious and you have it written down. Communication, literacy, education, and culture. This is one that had a lot of questions. And so this all comes down to the technology's ability to communicate well with you being Dave. And this can be affected by your level of literacy and whatever your native language is, or Dave's native language is, Dave's education, past education, and whatever Dave's cultural background is. The technology may use phraseology that Dave's not familiar with because of their cultural background or their education or their level of literacy. Not all technology is in English, but some of it is. And so if somebody is a non-native English speaker dealing with technology in English, then that could erect barriers unless whoever wrote that technology is careful, and so on. So also, Dave went to a school in a low SES community, and that school doesn't offer absolutely everything that some of the other schools do. And as a result of that, Dave rarely chooses to read really lengthy or complex text. Dave can read, but doesn't read long, hairy stuff. And some cultural and literacy allusions are not familiar. And also that school did not provide any tech education. So all of those things can interfere with communication. I just have to show you one awesome example. This is hard to read, even if you can read it. This is about a health savings account. People who join a university, say as a janitor, would want to know about this if this is their health plan. Look how it starts out. An HSA allows individuals or families to save for future medical expenses and obtain an income tax benefit at the same time. Is this written for low SES people? Are they looking for tax deductions? Just saying, the funds in an HMA can be invested, and the money invested can earn interest and dividends growing in value over time. Okay, all of this is about, you know, investments and stuff. Okay. Once deposited, it can only be used to pay for qualified medical expenses as defined by the federal government. What are those? We don't know.
If you could move closer to
Move.
the mic and restate the fact that some job titles such as custodian, this is written in accessible language.
Yeah, this is written in beyond college level English for people who care about tax deductions and can read college level English and are not at all fazed by trying to find definitions of what all the federal government defines as a qualified medical expense, and basically no one. Maybe some lawyers. Okay, there are many statistical ties to usability across different SES strata. SES statistically, socioeconomic status is tied in differences in comfort with different sentence structures, vocabulary, literary and cultural references. And a solution to that is sometimes multimodal communications that let people pick whatever mode of communication is the best one for them to relate to at that time. Okay, let's just give a couple of examples. I like hypothesis 2 there. Tech that can reflect the user's own culture will be more socioeconomic inclusive. Here's a very simple one. These thumbs up that you can now see in a variety of skin colors. I mean, that's not very hard. All you have to do is know what to look for. Here are some other examples. Solutions to these things are not that hard. All right. Some of you may intuitively think that technology privacy and security might be something that the more educated, tech savvy, high SES population would be more concerned about than lower SES because of perhaps increased background, but the opposite is true. Statistically, lower socioeconomic people are very protective of location and identity for a lot of reasons, one of which is many times it's not a household where each person has their own multiple devices. There aren't like, you know, one laptop per family member, one phone per family member, that sort of thing, statistically. So they're sharing devices, which means anyone in their family can see whatever it is they just did. And so there's that. They're much more protective of privacy for that reason. Also, negative experiences with high surveillance. If you've lived in a community where there are cameras on you all the time, you're going to be very protective of your privacy and security and not want to offer it up online as well. Also, it turns out that lower SES people actually experience things like credit card theft, identity theft, statistically more often than higher SES people. So lower SES people have very good reason to be especially concerned over privacy and security. People do things about this. This came from an academic paper. It's a real quote. It just sent chills through my bones when I saw this one. Privacy is not for me, it's for those rich women. Okay, some things that lower SES people statistically will do to avoid these risks is avoid technology whenever possible at all. Avoid all social media or delete often and extensively from various things that they've done online. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to skip this one. How much time do I have, Jillian? None?
Yeah, need to move on to the next one.
Okay, we're going to move on. But lucky for you, you already have a printout of all the facets And you will be very pleased to know that all of these things I've told you are not that hard to deal with. For example, there are remedies. So for example, for unreliable or less reliable technologies, you can make your apps both phone friendly and laptop, desktop friendly. So it doesn't have to be, well, it really only works well on a laptop. Also supporting offline sharing, so that if internet access is spotty, there are ways for you still to be able to communicate or do things like this. Provide voice-based stuff to eliminate the cost of screen reader software. So there are lots of different things you can do to improve inclusivity. The end.